Alright guys, so big Cobalt update because you can see that the trans is out, the subframe's right here, and yeah, everything is out of here. So without further ado, I'm going to show you how bad this throwout bearing was in the trans. So yeah, there you go. There's no ball bearing left on this throwout bearing part because they've all fallen out here, and this is the front casing or the sleeve of this throwout bearing. Goes on like this. This thing actually fell off. So yeah, very bad condition. So let's talk about how to get a front wheel drive car to this position, because yeah, what everybody says is right. Front wheel drive car trans swaps are kind of annoying because everything has to come out. I started with pulling out the fuse box and taking everything out from the top that I could, which includes the clutch line, which is right here. It goes from the master cylinder to this clutch distribution block right here. Let's see, so that's from up top. Disconnected the wiring harness with the reverse switch, all that stuff, and there's a wiring harness that connects to this bolt right here on the trans. I'll show you this trans a little bit later. So once that's done, I went from underneath the car, took out a bunch of fender lining material. So this is the one that blocks the subframe from getting dropped, but you have to remove your wheel well liners. Not fully remove it, but at least pull them out a little bit to get that done. Then once you have access to all that stuff, you start unbolting the subframe, which would be, what I did in this order was take off the sway bar from the strut, knock out the control arms from the knuckle. You gotta disconnect the steering rack, so that's 2 bolts here, and then you have to secure the steering rack underneath the car. You can see with some bungees, hopefully. So you have to secure the steering rack that way. Let's see, what else do you have to do? You have to undo the rear trans mount, and then you have to take out the rear trans mount because that's going to be in the way of you actually pulling out the trans. So the rear trans mount is here. So that guy comes out. I undid the front trans mount at the transmission, so this guy still stays here like so. Let's see, what else is there? Then I supported the front cooling assembly because that sits right here on your subframe. These 2 pegs right there. So that comes out. So you need to support that. And then you have 4 bolts here, there, and there. And the whole front subframe drops down. When you do that, you're still supported with 1 trans mount right here, so the whole engine cradle doesn't drop down yet. But once this thing is pulled out of the way, you go back in with a jack and some blocks of wood and support the engine by the oil pan, so you can start removing the trans from the engine. When you do, once you start removing the trans, the starter has to come out. So that's 2 bolts right here, because there is a bolt that the starter blocks. So let's take a look at the trans and all those bolts. So this is the way you'll be looking at the trans from, I guess, from the driver's side wheel. This one, this has a wiring harness on it, so you pull off the wiring harness and you get this one from up top. Then you have 4 bolts on the bottom, which I guess I'm going to come back around on this side to show you. It's going to be these 2, or it's going to be one of these 2, probably this one, and then these 2 down here. Then your starter gets bolted right here. So to remove the starter, then you can get access to this bolt right here that you want to remove. And then your trans is loose. So then you support it with the jack, and then you pull it out. I did run into a couple issues where the shifter cables, I popped them off, but they still got stuck here and here on these brackets. So you might want to like hook the shift cables above the brake lines. You can see right there, that white piece underneath this bracket. Yeah, it's kind of hard to get to actually with one hand because there's a lot of wires in the way. Then you also want to take the wiring harness, because you disconnect this switch right here and this switch right here. You might want to take the wiring harness and zip tie that above to something up here. That way the wiring harness doesn't get caught on this outer lip of the trans. And then once all that's good, you want to pull out your axles. Your intermediate shaft here, just yank it out, because that's going to be loose. And then you want to go to this side, and then that's your driver's side axle, which you just take a pry bar, whack on it real quick, and then it pops out too. You are going to have to drain your fluid, otherwise you're going to make a mess. So by doing it this way and then stuffing your blue shop towel into the openings, you don't have like a Exxon Valdez oil spill underneath your car, so it's a fairly clean job. So yeah, I'm at this point where I need to order new parts. If somebody could tell me how a throwout bearing fails to this point, would be nice, because Pep Boy said that they pressure bleeded it. I don't know if that just blew this guy up. I don't think it did, but who knows. Let's see, what else can I talk about? So this, I'm going to order a new GM part. Everything online says this clutch pipe that connects to the throwout bearing like so also needs to get replaced. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. I think there's something about the seals here. The seals here that might possibly leak. So I'm going to do that. I gotta do some research to see if this distribution block gets replaced, because there's also a seal from the inside, if you can see. And I just don't want anything leaking, because that would be a pain in the butt to replace. Otherwise, the only other challenge when getting this thing back in would be one-handed getting a trans back up while bouncing it on the jack. It's not going to be easy, but we'll figure it out. I am also going to give it a quick look at the clutch down there, just to see if it needs to get replaced, and if there's still any good material left, because this thing was, the clutch was replaced once before. So we will see. There was no slipping beforehand, and I think I'm just going to get away with not doing the clutch before I get rid of this thing. So yeah, Cobalt update right now. You're going to see it back together, and hopefully this thing will be driving with new throwout bearing and shifting properly. Then all it needs is an alignment, and hopefully it's getting out of here and getting sold. So there you go, your quick little update. Thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.